friends, welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic, question mark. Is magic just science that we don't understand? That's what Critters 2 ask us.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined by our longtime friend, the third co-host of the Film Alchemist podcast at this point, quite a back catalog, Carmelita Valdez McKoy. Welcome back.
Hi, friend.
It is the most exciting time of the year. We are in the midst, near the very middle, of the Film Alchemist 31 Days, 31 Pods October Mega Marathon. We have fallen into the abyss, an intergalactic abyss now. We find ourselves here in the Critters franchise. So I hope you've enjoyed the franchise that come before. I hope you will join us for all of the Critters fun. I hope you'll join us for every single movie, all 31 days this month. To do that, you have to go support the show on patreon.com, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The best way to support the show. It's the lifeblood of shows like us. It's the only way we can devour enough to become bigger, better monsters. So we need your help. We have episodes this month that only our patrons will hear. So the complete marathon only exists for those who support the show on Patreon. We have, besides the October episodes, we have past October exclusives. We have a huge Patreon exclusive library. We've got miniseries, commentaries, a wonderful community of friends we've developed over there that we would love for you to join. That would mean the world to us. We work really hard on this month. So this month especially, man, this is our Super Bowl. This is our Christmas. This is everything rolled into one. Also, we work very hard for the patrons over there to make sure that it's worth their time and support. So if you'd be so kind, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Please, just a couple dollars helps out a ton. The YouTube is Film Alchemist. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on, including TikTok. We make TikTok stuff that you can find over there. We'd love to see you guys there. Help support, blow up the algorithm, all that good shit. Make sure you're leaving 5-star ratings and reviews. Make sure you go to misfitparade.net to see the movies we are working on. Our short film, Sugar Tits, is out at the festivals. If you go check out over there, we might be playing in a town near you. I would love to see you come out and watch just high-class art house cinema, Sugar Tits, with us. That would be great.
I
almost got through it without laughing.
I love Sugar Tits.
It's a fun one. It's a goofy, good time. Also, make sure you're going to Looper so that you can see the video work I'm doing with my friends over at Looper. All right. As you know, we front load the first half of our October Mega Marathon every month with franchises, right? We all know the big horror movies that we all love. The iconic horror movies that we talk about, they get all the love, right? Well, many of those movies, due to the almighty dollar which we kneel before, get a bunch of sequels that everyone wants to forget and very few people want to talk about. Not always, not in the case of Critters 2. So I think one of my favorite things we've developed is going through whole franchises, warts and all, watching the evolution and the infection spread as these franchises move on. I think there are people that would argue that under the craftsman-like direction of one Mick Garris, who we all love, who had a great podcast, he's like a great ambassador for the horror genre, right?
Yeah.
Very smart, well-spoken man. That people would argue under the watchful eye of Mick Garris that Critters 2 actually overachieves and over-delivers and may in fact be something they like more than Critters 1. I don't know if I'm willing to say that, but there are definitely things this movie does a lot better, right? It looks a little juiced up. The critters look a little cooler. Yeah. We get some scenes of critters violence that are a little more horrifying, right? We get boobs. Always a great addition when you just like, what does this movie need? One more pair of boobs.
Yeah.
The answer is almost always yes. We expound on the relationships and some of the characters we've met before. We expand the universe. We even see new Critters powers. So, Carmelita, are you a Critters 2 over Critters 1 person?
I'm not.
I'm not either.
But
I do love this movie.
This is a worthy sequel.
I was shocked how many people on Letterboxd favor Critters 2 over Critters 1.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I have a theory.
Besides the boobs.
Besides the breasts.
It's a big check.
I mean, yes. I think when I was watching Critters 2 in preparation for this discussion, it struck me how it felt a little more gremlin-y.
Okay, so I thought this too. This is definitely Gremlins 2 and Critters 2 are spiritual mates, right? Because this one definitely kind of amps up some of the Looney Tune-ness.
Yes.
There's a moment in the hamburger shack when the bounty hunters first start wasting Crites where they all look at each other and they went, uh-oh. And
yes.
I was like, no. I was mad that we didn't get the Crites language because these Crites were born on Earth. So one thing we're learning as we add our mythological checklist of what these creatures are. They are born and immediately have some kind of hive mind knowledge with other Crites, right? Because they were just born Easter Day on Earth.
Right.
They're already saying words in English. So somehow the Crites' interaction with us is translated. They already know their Crite language and can speak. They already know their mission, this and that. So that's an interesting little just tidbit as we're like designing out a monster, right? Immediately after that, the centerfold bounty hunter steps up, blows one of the gremlin, I even said it, the gremlins.
Yeah.
The critter's head off to where he's bald. He looks in the mirror and in the Crite voice, he goes, bitchin', right? With the subtitle. And I was like, thank God it's still there.
Yes.
But it should not have come after the uh-oh. And then we see a Crite deep fried. We see some get splattered. So there was cool stuff happening. But that little moment of the Crites going, uh-oh, I was like, no.
It's a little more gremlin-y.
That is what the gremlin replicators, right? The imitators always would do shit like that made the monsters not cool, right? And even if your monsters are having fun, they need to be scary. The gremlins were always scary. The Crites were scary. And I think you could argue we're still a little scary in this movie at times. They definitely have great horror scenes.
Yeah.
That moment of, uh-oh, that scared the shit out of me. Because I haven't seen this movie since I was a child. So I was like, uh-oh, maybe I forgot. This movie sucks.
Right. You were saying,
I was pretty worried. Right? Like I was saying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This does come after we see them literally draining Chili Dog. Which is one of the, that's like a scene. So it's a movie of duality, right?
Yes.
Because that moment you're like, oh, fuck, the Crites are way more hardcore in this version. That's like an actual, my kid was mad. He wanted to leave the room. He's like, they're not going to get Chili Dog. And I was like, if they do, they won't see it. That's something we do now in horror movies. Oh, they fucking showed it. They're mowing down on this emaciated looking dog body. And I was like, that's brutal.
It's brutal.
So it's a movie of, it's trying to be a little more silly.
Yeah.
It's a lot more tongue-in-cheek, but I think that's what people are saying is that the horror is a little scarier. The laughs are played up a lot more, maybe almost a hair too much.
Everything is turned up.
Yeah, kind of everything, right? So it's not like a turning individual knobs, right? It's not like a bass and treble, whatever. It's master volume cranked up.
Yeah, it's those old school equalizers.
Yeah.
If you just
all of them.
Push them all up.
Yeah. It's not a nuanced film. That's not what we want out of Critters.
But it is fun. And I was thinking too, hearkening back to last year when we talked about Phantasm.
Yeah.
That this sequel is real time.
Yeah.
2 years later, and 2 years have passed in the movie.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the aftermath of what happened 2 years before.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, there's some great stuff, right? We see Bradley returning. Mm-hmm. Him and his family, it seems like, ran out of town. So then us seeing in the last movie their house being reconstructed, great. Their lives weren't.
No.
Their lives were not reconstructed, right? So,
and they wouldn't be, right? If something like that happened.
But you think even with the sheriff and all the people who saw everything they saw that night, they saw the priest mowing down the bar with a weapon they've never seen the likes of. The town, they even say at one point that this almost ripped Grover's Bend apart. That's what the newspaper man says. Bradley coming back is big news. Charlie's nowhere to be found. Did Charlie become a easy scapegoat to blame all this on, right? We see that the bounty hunters have been away from Earth for 2 years. We start in this really fun cave hunt where we get another monster. Charlie just left with the bounty hunters. So Charlie's not only been living with them, Ugg is still wearing his human rock star face, right? Even though he's gone on to other worlds, who knows how many for 2 years, right? Lee can't find it. He says, you can't live in a face that doesn't want you, right? Very progressive for the time.
Yeah.
And then Charlie's like, you're not going to leave me on Earth, right, if we have to go back? Because we see another cool-looking alien say, go back. The Crites are a plague, right? This is where they really expand on that. They're a plague. The council's very worried about them, right? And he just goes, Charlie Bounty Hunter. So there is a lot of work that, very simple work, right? Just that very well-thought-out craftsman-like work to, without having to belabor the point, kind of use that time jump is a place where we are writing in extra story, right?
Yes.
That is the advantage of a sequel. And I'm always shocked how few sequels utilize that. And Critters 2 does a great job of it.
It does. Absolutely. It feels like, okay, yeah, I see why there's a story to tell here. There's more story.
Yeah, the sheriff is just retired and he's like, he got voted out in a landslide and he's like, everyone can fucking kiss my ass. I'm getting out of town.
Yeah, he's living in a trailer.
There's a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
He's done. And he has been recast.
You want to know the truth, though?
What?
I think this version of Harv is actually better.
Yeah?
In the movie. Not that Emmett Walsh is not a great actor. That is not the argument I'm making as actor versus actor. What I'm saying is that in your kind of amped up, fun, cartoony movie, badass small town sheriff is just something I like. There's just something nice about when he's in that church and they're all like, Bradley done it. He brought him back. And he's like, y'all want to bitch and just be tomorrow's leftovers? I was like, yes. What do you got to lose except your lives? Like, he just is able to deliver those like badass kind of countryman lines that I love those characters. The grizzled old lawman.
Yeah. Well, and even in that scene, the townspeople again. Mm-hmm. Everybody feels, even though this is more amped up all the way around, you have those moments where you're like, yeah, there's going to be those people in the town that want to find a scapegoat, that don't want to accept what is clearly right in front of them and want to blame everything on this kid, and people who can't come together. They're immediately trying to take sides and gang up on somebody. All of that feels very authentic, even in a movie where everything is ramped up. You have those moments of like authenticity. Like, this is what it would be like in a town like this.
Yeah, because there's stuff like, Lynn Shay's just recast in a different role, right, as the newspaper lady. And I don't think it's like a high-minded, like, in a small town, there's just stereotypes of everyone and they have no self. None of that bullshit. It's just Lynn Shay rules. Yeah, and you want to put her in the movie, right? And that we need the sheriff back, and we're going to just cast a little more grizzled law dog man. Okay, that's great. Does this town make any sense, right? With, like, Nana's house is, like, a very weird kind of addition. She's, like, this granola vegan who's, like, very anti-red meat. The burger place feels so out of place for this kind of a town. Yeah. Like, I talked about in the last one how Critters felt like where I grew up. Right? There was, movies like that when I was a kid, like that Invaders from Mars remake. There was just super funks. It felt like something that would happen in the back of my neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the like Spielbergian neighborhoods were very West Coast and didn't feel like my shit. This one I didn't recognize Grover's Bend anymore. This wasn't like my town anymore. It kind of, and it's one of the things the movie does that just kind of, it flattens out a little bit. Yeah. It becomes more of a generic where it often feels very set.
That's true.
Versus like where country people would live. Right? And I don't think it's a casting thing. I think it might just be the nature of it being a sillier film.
Yeah, I think so.
And so, yeah, I think they added a lot of depth that they don't ever need to address, but there are moments where we can use it, right? There are moments where you go to that, and it's just better than kind of a sequel that's broken from the chain. Because for those of us who did, and maybe it's the nature of watching them back to back like we did, you see, you get these you're more easily to slide deeper in.
Yeah.
because they are using what they already have. You know, I do think the movie is a little underappreciated in that regard.
Right? No,
right?
I think you're right.
Like the bounty hunter's journey in this movie, while often played for laughs, they get like the real moment of the movie.
Yes. Yes. I love everything bounty hunters.
It's so good.
I love
the Playboy bounty hunter thing is like burned in my brain for obvious reasons as a boy.
Well, yes.
But it's great. Like it actually is really fun. It's really a great movie. At one point we see they're almost going to turn into Freddy Krueger. That Lee's going to turn into him. And that Charlie saved the Playboy to try to get him back, maybe when they're on the ship. So like, again, there's a lot of stuff under the surface where you're like, okay, I got to think about that. But when we see Lee ambushed in that dead end by all of the Crites, and all we see left is the phallic gun and the stumpy devoured arm, and we see Lee scream and cry and just revert back to a faceless, like, what is he now? What is this creature? And sit in the church. That fucking plays. Like there is an attachment. You're like, was I attached to the bounty hunters?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's the moment of the movie to me that like you're like, oh, this is like a real movie moment.
Yes.
It's not the scene that anyone will remember, but him sitting in those pews, I was like, that's real movie shit. That's why you have characters come back, is to have those moments.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. There's Ugg in that, mourning his partner. We don't know how many countless missions across the galaxy they've done.
No.
We don't know a lot about their backstory.
Are they bonded to like mate and reproduce? We don't know anything about their species.
Who knows?
Yeah. We don't know.
But we don't need to know more. In that moment, like the anguish.
Yeah. It's a universal moment that we can understand another species and loss like that. It's an easily recognized moment.
Yes.
Which is great.
And it feels authentic. In a movie where there's lots of silly stuff going on, that moment is serious.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the movie does a great job with kind of supplementing and building upon. We talked about how it doesn't feel as authentic, right? The one guy that does is Quint, or whatever, the guy who runs the curio, where the counselor from Heavyweights brings him the eggs, right?
Yeah.
That guy was a great casting. Like, he's just got one of those classic, like, guy who's seen some shit faces.
Yeah.
What did you make of... So his is kind of our introduction to the Crites, right? I think that scene goes hard, dude, with Chili Dog and all that.
Yeah.
What did you make of our kind of rebirth of the Crites? There's clearly many, many more eggs than there were before. Yeah. We also get the hunt that people have been pillaging the house of the family that claims they saw aliens, right? For some cheap thrills, maybe. What did you make of the reemergence of the Crites?
I like the way this is done. I think it's very believable, like...
Because now we don't have like 3 gray eggs. We've got like a plethora of fucking eggs. They found a whole nest.
And that part you got to kind of hand wave because we didn't see all that at the end of the last movie.
We didn't see the barn. They could have been in there, yeah.
But they could have been there, right? Mm-hmm. So we didn't know that going into this, but now that we do, like, okay, yeah, that tracks. Like, I'll buy it.
It answers the question of how they propagate, right?
Yes.
In our Gremlins versus Crites debate, which I don't even think is a debate. The Crites would wreck the Gremlins.
I think so.
Now we see that 8 of them came and there's like 20-some eggs. All right, they can reproduce pretty fast.
Pretty fast. And this is kind of nice with this whole Easter motif that's going on.
It's just right there. It's one of those you're like, that's so on the nose, but also when you see an Easter banner, you're like, fuck yeah.
It works.
Fuck yeah. And then when you see the surly new sheriff get destroyed in his Easter Bunny outfit.
Oh, it's the best.
It's amazing. He like flies through that church one. He's like, ah! He's got all these like, pock marks.
Yeah, it's so
great.
Good.
You're like, that's what I want out of Critters, right? We see some new powers, right? They're like fully formed at birth. We see them using their ball shapes to actually like dent the fucking truck. So the ball actually can become a weapon, right? Okay. Yeah, man. But the Easter Bunny where Quint is like a real kind of like horror movie scene, right?
Yeah.
That reminds you of like the dad hunting Gage in the house of Pet Sematary. Like it's actually like a scary kind of scene. The Easter Bunny is the inverse of that. Where it's like, now we're going to have some fucking fun with it.
Yeah. And it works that I think in Critters 2, both of those moments play.
Yes.
And everybody wins as a result. Viewers win.
Yes.
You get there's a little something for everybody. The straight up horror scene with this, the character that's kind of gray. Because, this guy's basically looting this abandoned house.
Yeah.
For his own financial gain, selling on these things that don't belong to him. So, and then the darkness of what goes on in his house and how the Crites dispatch him and the dog. And, how it's hilarious. It's hilarious for the sheriff dressed like an Easter bunny to have Crites in his suit and come crashing through the church window.
Yeah.
And all these churchy people having to see the Easter bunny get
got.
It's good.
Well, it's also like there are moments where it subtly drums up more horror than you expect. Like when you're watching a bunch of the town's children painting Crite eggs.
Yeah.
Right? Or like when she has the egg down by her bunny on the floor. And if her father doesn't come in at the right time and squish it on accident, you're like, that girl's going to get eaten. And after you see Chili Dog, it sets a tone of, fuck, they're going to kill a dog. And everyone likes dogs more than people for the most part. You're like, this movie could kill that girl. This movie could kill all of these fucking kids, right? So you see an Easter egg hunt and the painting and the, I'm going to bed, Dad. I don't want blankets. And you're like, she doesn't want blankets so we can see
the carnage
on her, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. So again, it's one of those kind of like really like a craftsman like Mick Garris. He finds ways to get more run out of, right? It's that what you imagine can be more scary than the movie. But the movie still gets points for that, even if they don't show you.
Because it works on your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is not something you would expect to say about Critters 2, that it has a lot of theater of the mind. But I found that it did, honestly. I did really enjoy it. So what did you make of Bradley's reintroduction into the movie?
So I think this was handled really well.
Yeah.
I like...
Kind of our de facto Reggie in Critters, right?
He is, yeah.
We're like, oh, he was the main character? Okay, I don't know that I picked that up, but okay. Sure.
But it works. It works.
Yeah.
And this makes sense. He's 2 years older, so he's solidly a teenager now.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the bus to come visit Nana.
Yep.
For Easter.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
A town that ran them out. That's a sign of bravery. He shows up to the bully. He kind of has that sad moment where he's like, I know karate now. And just gets fucking chucked out the door, which was great.
I know.
Comedically awesome moment. But it shows like a bravery, right?
Yeah. Which is in keeping with this character.
Yeah, like where him and Harv are both having that we should get the fuck out of here moment. You see him at Quint's house start to take on this like, all right, it's got to be me again. I'm ready. So we are expanding this kind of heroicness of the kid who saw it and it made him stronger, not broke him.
Yeah, I love that moment.
Yeah.
Because Lin Shaye's character has come looking for Harv to be like, hey, something bad's going on. We need you. And Harv is like, nah, I'm done. Yeah.
He's like, I'm watching TV in my underwear.
The town
I'm drinking.
Didn't want me. I'm done.
Yeah, fuck him.
And it isn't until Brad comes knocking.
Yeah.
And Harv and him have this moment where he's like, did you see them? Like, are they back?
Yeah.
Because he knows Brad's the only one that's really going to know.
Yeah.
I love that. Little things like that.
Also, it's like we don't see him come back. Like, Harv doesn't come back and do his, like, classic, 6-shooter hero.
Yeah.
Until Brad is. Brad's the one who runs away from the church and is just fighting these fucking rolling monstrosities with a broom.
Yeah.
He's just smacking them away from this girl so he can try to save her. And it feels pretty futile. But seeing him step up again is kind of shown to us on screen as the impetus for Harv to come back as well.
Yeah. If this kid is willing to step up and
when
face down
everyone
the
hates
Crites.
him, everyone's insulting him. And Harv doesn't stop and do the, like, he doesn't defend the boy like, this man's a hero, protect him. He's just kind of like, that's another guy. That's another guy that I can respect. He gets the job done. He doesn't baby him. He doesn't coddle him. We don't have to sing heroic ballads.
Mm-hmm.
You just get to fucking work. And so it gives Bradley this extra layer of respect.
Yeah.
That I think is pretty cool.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I like how the town comes together.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be convinced. And that's real.
Well, yeah, because they're all kind of like, what if we just throw this kid out to the Crites and let them eat? Like, they're like this close to human sacrifice.
They are. And this is real. I mean, I think we've seen enough evidence in human history that this is how the mob deals with.
Well, I think we all think we'd be noble, but also you put yourself and you're like, I might make that deal. If I'm sitting there guarding my kids and it's like, how the fuck am I going to fight these alien monsters? Like, oh, that little dickhead? The kid who used to blow up my mailbox with M80s, we can throw him out? And like, that'll solve it?
Yeah, let's try that. Yeah,
it's not as long of a road as people think.
No, it's really
to
not.
madness. It's not that long of a road. And again, because it's a funny movie, we're not sitting and thinking about how much fucking wild, depraved shit these people have seen. Again, we're talking about the destruction of norms, gods, our place in the universe. Like, this is a lot for the small town farm mind to take in and process in this moment.
They're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, their lives are built around simple truths, right? God, family, the American way. All of that is unraveled in a moment. And all you have left is family. Not city family, but like my family. And what do I do to not let them die? It's not that far. I think we'd all be surprised. I think we all think we'd be the hero in these moments, the level-headed voice of reason. I think most of us are the people that sit there and just like, what are we doing? You let two other people argue and you're like, I don't know, I'll pick a side when it's over. So it's nice. Speaking of misunderstood heroes, what do you make of Charlie's reintroduction? Because this becomes... It kind of sets this relationship with wait, who took that photo of them slingshotting the daughter's ass? This moment where he's like, Charlie, I miss you, man, wherever you are. Charlie's like, I only had one friend and he was just a kid, What do you make of Charlie's reintroduction? Charlie's new arc in this film.
I love it. I think it's really fun. Really cool. Charlie never fit.
Never fit.
And
he had a moment as a high school baseball star and it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah. Charlie doesn't fit. And in a small town like this, it's hard to be the one that doesn't fit.
Super hard.
So
the last way to see a bartender like, I'll leave the bottle, just don't talk to me.
Just don't talk. I mean,
there's a crushing loneliness to Charlie.
Yes. You know what it reminds me of? The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah.
That like if you're in a community where there's only so many people.
That's right. You've done nothing to me. I don't like you no more. You're boring.
If you have no friends in a town like that, that's a loneliness.
It's tough.
Beyond, right? Because everybody knows everybody. Everybody's in close quarters. Mm-hmm. So Charlie going off with the bounty hunters, having these adventures. I like that you kind of get the sense that Charlie's been learning from the bounty hunters and the bounty hunters have been learning from Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, it might be why they Ugg kept the human face, right?
Right.
To have more of a connection with Charlie. It feels Charlie. Like they really are friends now. Like, because he says he's like, out there, I'm a bounty hunter, man. I'm somebody. Whereas here, I was a nobody, right? He's one of those people you look through, around, and past.
Yeah, worse than a nobody. He was the town crazy.
Yeah, he was a ghost, right? He was a punchline. He was nothing. Or even worse than nothing, because anything he had was negative.
Yeah.
Right? And so, there's something about watching Charlie come back. I think if I have an issue with Charlie's story, because Charlie at the end does the heroic kamikaze dive, right? I am a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck yeah,
ultimate
Charlie.
Sacrifice for the town.
The sheriff even is just like, good old Charlie. No one had probably ever called him good old, right? That's like a classic countryism, right? Of like, that's a guy. That's a guy right there. No one had ever said that about him. I don't know that I love that he just comes back and the sheriff's like, here's your badge. And his bounty hunter bro just like dips on him.
Yeah.
The bounty hunter lost Lee. Why wouldn't you want Charlie?
This is the one sticking point. I love the sentiment.
That feels like one of those playing on our human heartstrings, but this is an intergalactic tale.
This is an intergalactic tale. I can see there's a nice fluffy aspect to now that the town has seen what the universe is, how big the universe is, they can appreciate Charlie to the point where they would ask him to be a leader in the town. That's kind of
also
cool.
I was like, the sheriff got eaten in an Easter Bunny outfit. Harvey just grabbed the badge and then threw it to Charlie. You're like, that's not legally how this works. There has to be an election.
There has to be an election.
This movie could end with Charlie losing a crushing election day defeat.
This is true.
Because he's Brad's friend, and then he's like, well, fuck, now I'm just back to being the town drunk.
To being the town drunk. He can't be the
town drunk because he's out in space.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I don't need it, but also, he doesn't have it.
Yeah. And I think had Charlie died in this heroic act,
it's better.
It's better.
Ugg takes his face and says, hey, you've got the communicator. Call me, right? Yeah. When you want to talk to Charlie. And there's like this kind of like afterlife heavenly image to that.
Yeah.
Of him like calling Charlie, Ugg, right? On the communicator as he's like out free having adventures. I kind of hate the like Charlie reduced to a joke with his parachute he can't get off. He's a fucking bounty hunter now, dude.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Like now you're stuck in this town. I thought that was maybe like the one really bad decision besides the uh-oh.
Yeah, I agree.
I was like, that sucks. It's right at the end of the movie, so it doesn't fucking matter.
No.
But I was like,
and I get, again, like everything in this is turned up, so it seems so ridiculous.
Yeah.
That he survived the parachute and that he would be the sheriff. But everything in this movie is kind of a little heightened, so they're heightening up.
Yeah, you're just like, how did he parachute from that? Like, well, it's not a movie that begs like a lot more examination.
No,
I think it's kind of shitty that what the movie's telling us is that Charlie left and found himself amongst the stars. But really now he's just going to be here with people that hate him and treat him like shit and can vote him out. Like, that's stupid.
Right.
That's not good storytelling. It's not satisfying storytelling.
Yeah.
He should have left with Ugg. You know what I mean? He should have left with Ugg.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe
I would
Ugg
have.
takes Bradley's face and they go out and have adventures through the universe, man. That's the movie that I was wanting to watch.
Yes.
That's what I wanted for my ending.
I agree.
Again, all right, so let's talk about the Crites. We also see a new power. We see the Mega Ball, which clearly shields them from damage, which is great. Right? Maybe the outer layer dies, but the inner layer survives, right? So
best kill of the movie is when the Crite ball
rolls over and you just get the close up of the and they strip that dude down. Yeah, did you have a favorite kill moment? So we see the new powers, right? Are the Mega Ball, the using the balls for destructive power, right? Like rolling themselves hard against the car. The fact that they are born fully formed.
Yeah.
Right? And absorbing knowledge that they only could have gotten 2 years ago on Earth. What did you make of the Crites in this movie? Also, we learned that Ugg can shapeshift into a Crite.
Yeah.
And leads them back for cheeseburgers like a Pied Piper. That they don't love to digest bones if they don't have to. So these are new things we learn about the Crites. What did you make of the Crites in this movie?
I like it. And this is necessary, right? If you're going to have sequels, you have to be able to add a little something.
Yeah. The Mega Ball is fucking cool.
It's
like that
cool.
scene when like the truck and the Mega Ball are battling. That's pretty fucking righteous.
And especially if we're to believe.
And it's rolling back Indiana Jones style to eat all the kids in the church. That's what they're doing.
I love it. I love that part. And my favorite kill is the guy that gets steamrolled by the Mega Ball and stripped clean. Stripped to the bone.
To this point, it's the best kill we've seen in the franchise.
I think so.
Because the scene where they pulled Jeffrey under the car is pretty great.
It's pretty good.
And the other thing you learn, that the Easter Bunny is good. That's funny. Probably the one. And then this one, Critters doesn't have a huge body count. It's
Not
a
really.
lot of bites and not a lot of meals.
This is true.
Yeah, so that one was just exceptional. The effects are great.
Good.
It's fucking funny.
It's so good.
The reaction of the townsfolk, like, it's a great scene.
Yeah. I love, as we've got these new facets to what the Crites are, it really does, it backs up that mythology that this intergalactic council is saying to the bounty hunters, this is priority number 1.
Yeah.
The Crites are so bad.
Yeah.
They're such a scourge. This, of all the alien life forms in the galaxy, this is your priority. Get it done. And this makes sense as we see more. Because we see
that they can grow huge.
Yeah.
But also their individual numbers can combine.
Yes.
To make a giant destructive force. So there's different ways that they can attack and assault depending on where they end up. You know, it asks the question, like, what if they end up on, like, a liquid planet, right? You get the sense they'll be all right. They'll figure that out.
Highly adaptable.
Yes, it is. It's that Lilo and Stitch thing. That's what they were going for when they stole Critters outright. Which is great, man. I thought, I think I would have liked a little more. We get a little more, like, the Crite models look better, right? The Crite that got deep fried, that might be actually my favorite thing in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that was really cool.
That was fucking cool. They're on the grill, they're eating. I thought it's weird that the movie goes more for strengthening the characters of old. I thought we could have used a little more Crites throughout, but then in that big finale when you get the ball, you're like, all right, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
Like, it is great. I could have used a little more of those moments, right?
Yeah.
But I think we expand on their kind of mythology, and they are super fun in this one.
They
almost
are.
To the point of, like, bring it back a hair. Bring it back a hair. Let's add a little more teeth and a little less laughy.
Right.
But I don't know. How do you think this movie do you think it found the balance that the first one did? As a sequel, it doesn't have the task that the first one does, right? The first one sets the tone.
Yes.
The mythology, the characters, whatever. I doubt there were a ton of people that are like, Critters will be this Grand Slam franchise. There might be a lot of people now that say it's still not. The sequel does not have that uphill task. Its job is to deliver an experience that will expand upon, show us new things, and excite the fans who loved the ride of the first one. How do you think, as a sequel, Critters 2 does on those marks?
I think it does pretty well. I think, and that turning up the volume on everything makes sense when you're trying to keep people engaged.
Sequels can get away with that, I agree.
They can get away with that. I mean, there are some famous examples in history.
Yes. Some not so good.
And some that are even more extreme.
Like, there is a level when you hit 11 when it can go so wrong.
Absolutely. And I think this one, because they turned everything up, they still really do maintain that balance of the sci-fi, the comedy.
Yes. It's more comedy, but it's also more melodramatic.
Yes.
We get more sci-fi. The only thing that doesn't feel like it went up was the horror. But again, that chili dog scene is scarier than anything in part 1.
Yeah.
You know, there's kind of a tongue-in-cheek, like them attacking the Easter Bunny and shit. So I feel like they did exactly what they wanted to do, right? This movie is definitely more funny. A lot more funny. The shit with the bounty hunter turning into the centerfold, and then the burger nerd, and then back to the centerfold, and maybe that shit is all way, way more funny, right? The Crites, they're obviously a lot more goofy. That guy being eaten alive as it's rolled over, like, this movie's way more funny.
Not too goofy.
Yeah, I don't think it ever tips where it becomes a distraction. Like,
they're not wearing hats and glasses and smoking cigars, okay?
And getting yelled at in a theater by Hulk Hogan. That's not your vibe.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this sequel knew to double down on the right stuff. Yeah. Right? Which is, this should be a fun ride, right? Eating the Easter Bunny, giant ball, bitchin', right? Like, they knew the moments to hit. I think it does not get high enough marks for the the universe building it does, right? Expanding the story and the mythology of these characters. I think without wasting a lot of time, it does a really wonderful job of that. And in a way that pays off in unexpected ways that you're not prepared for. So to me, I mean, the bounty hunters kind of look cooler. The effects are a little slicker. The creatures are a little better. So I don't know that it just kind of has that. There might be something about the earnestness of part one, the challenge of creating it for the first time, that gives that one a slight edge to me. I don't think it's much.
You know, the one thing that was missing for me?
I can see the argument on which one.
The thing that one for me did better than two, one had that really authentic, lovable family.
Yeah.
That very believable family.
They had that with Charlie and Bradley. The ending with Charlie kind of unravels a lot of that.
And in this one, we get Megan, the newspaper.
The newspaper family does not feel right at the center.
It doesn't. And so my thought is they should have just scrapped that. Like,
yeah, just follow Bradley and Harv and Charlie.
Right.
Make it Phantasm 2, where they're just out on the road fucking chasing down the Crites.
Because if you're not going to have that family we fell in love with in the first one, you're not going to be able to recreate that with a family we don't know. And you're not going to put enough time into us getting to know.
Yes, it feels like the newspaper people are there to put blame and light on Bradley to make him the focal point for ire of the townsfolk. They don't really do that. Like, if the parents are like really leading a witch hunt, like the Lady in the Mist, right?
Yeah.
Against Bradley, and the daughter's like, well, he keeps saving me. Like, I don't see it. Like, now you have like the stuff for a tale.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like, we're newspaper people, and that kid's bad news, but we immediately are with him, and everyone hates us too.
Yeah.
You're like, that's not really, it's not doing any work in the movie.
Yeah. That for me is the one thing that's missing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's just not, it just doesn't complete itself.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are a couple little things here and there where you're like, all right. So I think for me, Critters 1 is just more of a streamlined project, right? It doesn't have those like tripping stones.
Yeah.
But also, I think you could argue this movie has the funnier scenes, it has the scarier scenes, it has the cooler scenes, and we get more time with these characters and find out, oh, we actually liked them a lot. Like, it is really sad when Lee dies. You know, it's really cool to see Harv the sheriff come back. So again, I wouldn't argue with someone.
No.
If they said they like Critters 2 better, I get it. I totally get why.
I'm not going to be appalled.
This is an Alien versus Aliens thing to me. I'm not saying that Critters 1 and 2 can be stacked up. I'm saying if someone tells me they prefer Alien stylistically to Alien, you'll get no argument from me. If that's your vibe, big fun sci-fi action movie versus kind of haunted house in space, no problem. I have my favorite, you have yours. I'm not going to debate that. It's perfectly reasonable.
No, that's